He has to carry so much.
Oh. All right, 7 o'clock, we're gonna get a start. Open meeting, has everyone had an opportunity to review minutes from last? Yep. Motion to approve the minutes. Kathy, Joe, seconds, all in favor? Thank you. We had 2 work sessions this week. We met with the applicants for Cheng Plaza to discuss lighting, and we talked to the Little Way Hotel to discuss signage. Anything on schedule for I get this time? Okay, so we've got a couple of items on the agenda today. We'll start with Bull and Bear. We have worked with Bull and Bear quite some time. You guys went to ZBA and got your
ZBA on Monday, got approval?
Okay, no other changes or additions since then.
No.
With that, then I'll, any questions from the board? Okay, then I'll offer a resolution on this one. Motion to approve the site plan last dated 8/7/2024, following findings and conditions. The applicant has previously presented site plan improvements for its restaurant use on the premises prior to opening the restaurant use. Some modifications / improvements were apparently made during the COVID pandemic with administrative approval. The applicant now seeks to improve the site, including an enclosed outdoor recreational area. This application and approval herein is intended to approve the entire site plan as presented as the final and approved site plan for its use in site. The zoning board of appeals granted variance to decrease the parking by 23 parking spaces from the legally required 115 spaces. With the 23 spaces or 23 space reduction as permitted by the ZBA, the legally established baseline parking space for the site and use is 115. That's still correct. The Onondaga County Planning Board referral dated August 21st, 2024. No significant adverse intercommunity or countywide implications from the project. The board reviewed the SEAF dated June 4th, 2024. For this unlisted action under SECRA, and the board issues a negative secret declaration for the project. This approval was made with the condition that this approval is for plans and other submitted documents. Site plan documents that have been signed by the chairperson in the applicant requires that all of the work shall be completed by the applicant in order for a certificate of occupancy or compliance to be issued. Any proposed changes, additions, or deletions to the scope of work or materials with the site plan documents are not approved and are subject to further site plan review pursuant to town code section 92.22. I will move. Is there a second? Any favor? Great, thank you. Great.
Thank
you. Next up, we've got a preliminary presentation, Newport Holdings subdivision. Please introduce yourself, give you a couple of minutes, kind of give us the rundown.
Sure. So my name's attorney Mark Levy. I'm here for, I guess, Curtin Law Firm. Paul's attending the wedding this evening, so send me. We're here on behalf of the applicant, Michael Silverberg for Newport Holdings. And what they're proposing is, this is a pre-existing non-conforming occupancy and use. I believe the buildings single story originally were built in the 1940s, right by the railway for their use. And one of the tenants wants to purchase one of the buildings. The purpose of the requested subdivision would be to allow that to occur. And then they obviously need relief with respect to the area variances. And if you look at the application, I don't know, does everyone have an application? Okay.
We did get it by email, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a specific requested relief for the referral for the ZBA is on there as well with respect to the area variances that are there as percentages.
Yeah, they're on the recommendation here. So you'll need them for all the setbacks as well. lot coverage, building coverage.
Correct, correct. That's all detailed. The buildings, the continued use of the buildings are gonna be the same. Everything's gonna be the same. The tenant simply purchasing one of the buildings. And there really will be no changes. It's all set up. All the utilities are there, not proposing changes.
The lot line will go down the middle of the drive,
Correct.
so. We're gonna want to see cross access. And when do we want to see that?
When they come back, and
Okay.
it's I would say it is a recommendation that goes on the ZBA,
Yes,
that it would be part of their
conditional.
conditions.
Yeah, in order for there to be.
Yeah, with the railroad, don't they need access there too?
Uh. To the railroad
Yeah, didn't
parcel,
their easement come into that as well, because there wasn't much room back there?
I thought that they didn't have the
Yeah,
access.
I think they're using it, but they
Yeah.
don't have access to it. Yeah, I thought it was
Right.
the.
Yeah.
We just talked about this, the center.
Yeah.
Right, that, hey, they might be using it, but it's not something they have.
There would be reciprocal easements as part of it in terms of the sale as well. So those can be through the zoning board or whatever the recommendations.
Do you have an easement with the railroad right now?
I'm not familiar if they do have an easement with the railroad.
I don't believe they.
I don't think so.
Why is the easement that we're talking about for the subs different than the easement?
There is no easement to the rear.
There isn't an easement at all right
They
now.
don't,
There's
Yeah.
no
they don't
rear
need
to
one, they
the
have
lot.
access.
Because they own
So
it.
it's,
Yeah,
it's essentially a drive aisle, and there's not enough room for them to put.
It could be a dead end, right?
But the-
Somebody could close off the back and it's a dead end.
Yes, but it's an existing condition.
may I approach? I've got the map here and it shows the rights of way easements as well. So I think the rails are at the top. There's a right of way up top. Here at the bottom. So the access, right of the way. That's where it's from.
There is a portion of the building that extends into that, right?
Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
That extends into.
Into the railroad. Right. Because the property line runs east to west across the top of the state.
Right.
Right.
I believe you can have them. So I've got some extras here.
I'm good, I've got it. Yeah, I just,
Yeah.
I got it computerized.
It's just a longer.
Is this new?
I'm not sure.
Like there's extra copies here. This is a zero lot line in the back.
Right.
Which is fine. They will do that.
Yeah, but that would be left to the railroad to say, okay, you can't do that. If there's any requirement that they have to do it that way.
People down either side.
Correct. But that's the existing non-conforming aspect of this. We're not changing the buildings, we're not changing the access through there. I mean, they can continue to potentially drive straight through into the railroad, but it's up to the railroad to say, you can't do that.
Why is it even necessary? No, I mean, the shared agreement in this lane here is encouraging use in the back of the lot that they don't have access to.
Well, or else you just, if you don't have it, then one side. They can stop people, like going up and down, then.
Right now, everybody is allowed to use it and they can. The only reason we asked that they make the easement and thing down the center was so in the future, they didn't have to worry that they would only have half of a driveway.
No, I
And then
understand,
it's-
I understand, no, we're,
Yeah.
we're,
And
we're
then take
addressing.
ownership, but they were
we're
gonna
addressing
put it.
all these issues
Right,
to correct.
Correct.
Business. The variance. Except the one, right, that's the only thing I'm saying,
Yeah.
yes,
like everything else is
yep, no,
fixed,
you're right,
except for that issue.
correct,
Yeah.
And we're not obligated to resolve that as part of this.
correct.
Right.
Yep. people taking a look at the variances.
Yeah, just was confused if there was another easement that I didn't know about in the back.
Yep.
So just in summary, there's a ton of variances that are needed. Because they are doing something new. Like if they weren't doing anything new, it'd be pre-existing non-conformity, but now they're asking to divide it, so it either has to come in conformity. Or you have to get variances. And I think this was discussed at the board the last time that. It's not really changing anything.
Right.
It's unusual to give this many variances. I've never seen this many variances given, but it's also an unusual area of the town.
Right, again, my understanding is when they researched it, the buildings were actually built in the 1940s. And it looks like the use was sort of particular to that area. I'm assuming for the Second World War manufacturing.
Mark,
Yes, please.
ask Paul to look into this right way back here.
Yes, I will, you asked the question,
question.
so I'll ask.
Thank you.
Or-
Are there other questions? I'd like to offer a recommendation to the ZBA. This subdivision presents a pre-existing lot with two existing structures in an industrial zone district of the town. The area along Newport Road consists of multiple large warehouse structures where parking and ingress and egress from the site is limited. Further, the buildings and lot do not currently meet code setbacks and other bulk requirements. While each lot requests multiple variances, the configuration of lots and buildings have existed and generally have functioned for multiple years. Because of the property configuration being basically a division line being changed, variances are required. The granting of the requested variances in this case would permit two separate buildings to be separately owned, and the resultant buildings and configurations will not visually change and will continue to reasonably fit the neighborhood as it has existed for some time. Further, the plan as presented with the requested variances will not change the operation of the site, provided the current passageway between the buildings continues to be shared legally to be a shared legal access with no parking permitted between buildings. Accordingly, this board recommends that the following variances be granted by the ZBA as to each of the newly created lots. I'm not going to cover the actual variance. We've got a chart here. You can provide that, but we will deal with building coverage for lot A, which is left side. Building coverage, lot coverage, front yard setbacks, side yard setbacks, rear yard setbacks, building height. The proximity to the property lines. For building B, it would be building coverage, lot coverage, front, side, and rear yards as well as building heights.
Thank you.
Those recommendations will be made. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, yes. Sorry,
Thank you. Please.
haven't gotten all the way down there.
Yeah, wait, like here's the part.
It is recommended that the variances if granted contain the condition that upon the subdivision approval at the planning board, the applicant must provide a declaration of easement in favor of both parcels for the area on the subdivision map presented and currently labeled Arvia. Running between the two parcels, this area must be labeled easement on the subdivision map. Meets and bounds description must be provided. This easement shall be permanent, run to the benefit of the town, and must be filed with the Onondaga County Clerk simultaneously with filing of the subdivision map. The matter shall be referred back to the planning board for final subdivision review. Comments? Motion to approve. Kathy, Kevin, all in favor? Great. So this recommendation will go to, okay, thank you.
Or any. You know, yeah, it's the same about the city. Yeah. That's.
Okay. Next up, we've got got an application in front of us for Manly's Pebble Hill. I know there are people here in the audience, I will encourage you to sign in on the side over there. This is not a public hearing. This is an opportunity for us to hear what is going on. I will tell you that beyond this, we will be calling for a public hearing. At that point, any of the neighborhoods and applicants will have an opportunity to speak and voice their concerns about it. So I'll give you a couple minutes.
I'm gonna be recusing myself from this, that's gonna come up.
Please introduce yourself and
Question. Mayor, go ahead with, hi, it's nice to meet you all, thank you very much for, this opportunity, I appreciate it. My name is Jim Foley, by the way, I'm the head of school at Manus Pebble Hill. This is my second school year, I'm new to the area, I moved to Syracuse, a little over a year ago, so. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be here. I believe it's really important to have, good community relations, between students and, local officials. That's one of the reasons why, one of the first things that I did when I moved here was to make sure to reach out to local officials like fire and police and safety. Really glad to see that there's a long-standing tradition of strong partnership there. And that's really important to me. So it's important to me too, because I think that schools like ours who are in and of our communities, it's important that we're also good for our communities, and not just for students and families that attend my school. Attend our schools, but also for everybody who lives and works in the town of DeWitt. And that's why we're really pleased to bring this application, this proposal to you today. Because we believe that it dramatically improves the safety and the vitality of DeWitt for everybody here. I know that residents, neighbors will always have questions and concerns. Anytime that any kind of change is proposed along these lines, and we're always responsive to that anytime they're brought to our attention. And I'm also grateful for public forums like these and the open comment period that's scheduled for a few weeks from now to be able to do the same thing. I think that's an important part of the process. I know from my conversations with folks that we have many in our community who are eager to voice their support for our proposal because they're concerned about the alternatives and the issues for traffic and safety that might result. So all that's to say, thank you very much for this opportunity to be able to speak with you and to meet you tonight. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to some folks on my team who are going to speak to more of the particulars.
Thank you. Thank you for letting us appear here tonight. I'm just going to start and sort of pick apart a little bit about the circular.
I knew that almost everybody knows you.
Christian Freeman from Kepler Freeman Associates. You haven't seen my face, you'll see me again soon. This is MPH School. We're on Jamesville Road, and I'm just going to sort of introduce a little bit about the site circulation, and then I'll turn it over to Matt and Mike. We'll talk a little bit more about sort of day-to-day and kind of how things work at the school there. So we put together this diagram just to sort of talk about how circulation could work in an ideal way to mitigate things like cars going head on to each other, trying to improve flow. One thing that we do when we do schoolwork from scratch and design is we try and separate, and the way that that helps is you ease the flows, and then you have buses, and you don't have little kids walking out in front of buses and things like that. You don't have that those sort of conflicting ways of moving about it. So what we have are 3 different colors here that represent the 3 major flows. The green is perhaps the most important one, and that's going through the gate that came into question. That's for parent pickup for students whose parents would be coming to pick them up from school. That would be during school pickup and drop off hours. The way that it's being used right now is the gate is open. Parents come in through Addison and Pool over there. It's sort of a
I'm sorry, you said the way it's being used right now.
Correct. Through the gate.
The gate's open right now?
The gate is open, parents are going through that way.
Correct.
That gate should be closed right now,
Correct.
so.
Understood.
If I could clarify, it's only open during a 90-minute window?
It's,
in
that's
the
not the way that
afternoon
that's not the way that it should be used right now.
Understood.
It's a maintenance gate, it's a main gate, should be.
Exactly, and that's the purpose of our proposal, correct?
So we coming through Addison and Pool, which is sort of this backward P-shaped street. Go in one direction, and the width of this lane here allows for double stacking in single direction. So the parents can come in, pick up at this green arrow, drive through, the red represents stop signs, come through here and then leave along with the others. The light blue is pre-K and the orange is buses. And what happens is kids come out this door for the buses, they walk across. This is our one sort of crosswalk conflict point for kids and cars. So that's an area of slow, of stop. The kids come across, they get picked up by the orange bus line there and leave that way. And the pre-K kids, there's no conflict there for them, smaller kids, less view for drivers, more conflict potential there, so they come right out and the blue represents the pre-K kind of pickup, drop off and exit loop. So that's our circulation as it would exist in perhaps an ideal setting. One thing that is worth noting is I'm gonna go hand this off to Matt and Mike. There is previous function of the site existed where students were being dropped off across the way at the church and then crossing with sort of non-official crossing guards, trying to help the students usher across the street into the campus from an agreement with the church across the way. And I'm sure we've all driven on Jamesville Road around 3 o'clock on a school day, and you'll find it to be quite congested both directions, and a lot of the lights are full. You won't get through a light cycle, so it's very, very backed up. One thing that we had done is we have spoken to Gordon and talked about traffic flows a little bit. I won't get into that now, but we did look at Jamesville Road traffic flows and how the use of the gate might mitigate flows on Jamesville Road. So with that, I'm gonna hand it off to Matt and Mike.
Did that traffic with Gordon talk about the impact on pool?
It did,
So it has information in that will be shared with us?
yes,
It has been.
Yeah.
It has
Yes,
been?
yes.
Okay, so it has the impact on those.
Yeah, certainly speak to it whenever you want me to.
What's a
Yeah.
non-official crossing guard?
That's a great question.
Yeah, we can schedule it for that.
Please.
Matt Card,
Mike
CFO, and Mike Long, Director of Physical Plan. Why don't you tell them how it works?
So in the past, it would actually be maintenance out there doing the crossing, so. Myself and 2 other gentlemen would go out there, put vests on, and from hours 2:45 to 3:15. We would be out in the road, stopping traffic both ways on the stop sign and the vests. just
At
to let
these-
students
At
cross.
these two, correct?
Correct.
In those rectangles.
How that worked, it wasn't great, right? We've actually spoken with PD because during these times, it's half-hour window. We have, people passing by, yelling at us, screaming, you guys can't block the road, you guys can't stop. We get kids across safely. There's been a couple of close calls that we did not like because of how fast the traffic's moving. A lot of people just not paying attention, even with us in our orange vest. We would have parents and stuff kind of line up in the church parking lot to put them back on the campus after 3 o'clock. And at that time, we would actually have to stop traffic on Janesville Road to safely cross cars, which was not great. We would do it in intervals, so we would do it so that we wouldn't see as much backing up, but if we were getting to a pinch point in campus where we couldn't get any more cars on, or cars decided to kind of sneak in, it would stop Janesville Road like both sides. Personally, I've been there for 12 years now and I've kind of seen it all. The impact of what we're proposing here now is 100%. I mean, we are not congesting any of Janesville Road. The cars are all in the parking lot. They're not holding on Pool Road or Anderson Run. They're all in the campus, parallel parked on the side of that gym right there. Yep, right there. Down, we never have any holding into the neighborhood.
If you pan back up, yeah, keep going. Yeah,
Yep.
this is a kind of a gravel area, so in a super congested situation, you could stack cars there as well, which gets you another probably 12 to 14 cars in there as well.
Do you know how many parents are picking up each day?
In the group that follows through here, it's about 50 to 60.
In general, how many parents are picking up each day? Not the ones that go through the neighborhood. How many parents are picking up?
If we add the pre-K kids in and the upper schoolers, it's probably closer to 100.
So that would include, yeah, the blue line as well then.
Is this all because of increasing enrollment?
No, there's increased parent pickup. There were previously more students who were taking the bus.
And you know, just like I said, speaking from my understanding, being out on the street and like actually being there, it was. Even when times that we had out there, it didn't feel right, you know, they've had to dive all the way in cars. I mean, it's just not safe, and since we've gone to this. You know, we've been able to use our resources more, you know, in a maintenance role, we would have to stop at 2:30, we get out there so we would lose between myself and it was like 3 hours per ride a day. And seeing the congestion, we would go all the way down to the light, we'd be backed up all the way down to Moses and going all the way down towards the library when we would stop in traffic. People honking their horns, commenting, yelling at us.
You're saying you witnessed traffic backed up all the way down to the library.
Just all the way to what you can see around that corner,
Past the new school.
past the new school.
So is this currently, you're implementing this plan already, there are 50 to 60 parents who
Yeah,
get
but-
through the neighborhood already?
Yes.
And since we started this, you know, we've had no backing up on James Road. It's so smooth. I'm looking to get right back out on the street. We're not even clogging campus up. It's just a smooth transition.
So in this,
Yeah.
but in this plan, the traffic exiting from the school on Jamesville, that's changed, right? You still have the same traffic
Exiting, that's correct.
exiting.
Yes.
Right.
So, but you mentioned just that turning traffic was previously a big problem. Because people couldn't turn left.
It was,
But, you know, how has that changed?
it was coming in. So.
So when you're trying to get out, the first group, you have a stacked line of those who still haven't come in yet.
Backing up.
Yeah,
Correct.
if you think about it like a drive-through, it's sort of like doubling back in the drive-through where people are coming in. So you're creating the shape of the letter T.
Are you still stopping traffic though, to let people turn left?
No,
No. So what time was drop off in the morning?
this does not occur for drop off. Drop off, there's a much longer period of time of drop off is occurring. So everyone is coming in through this entrance here, for drop off. It's only a pickup.
Is the intention ever to open that back gate during drop off?
No.
Who's opening and closing the gate?
Great.
Department, yes.
And when we go out there to open it, we wait right until 2:30 and there's never cars like sitting in the neighborhood. If there has been one or two off, we've actually had conversations with those families asking them not to come. They've been asking if there's no sitting traffic. in the neighborhood.
Is that a paved driveway? No.
It's pressure run all the way up until that side of the gym, right here is where it turns to pavement all
Yeah,
the
you can
way up.
see this striping.
Do you intend to pave the whole thing?
Long term, yes. Yeah, in the winter time, you know, obviously clearing it would be easier with pavement.
You do have high school age students, correct?
We do, yeah.
Do you allow them to park on campus?
They park, we have an agreement with Pebble Hill Presbyterian Church. They park in their lot during the school day.
So you still have kids crossing the street.
We have, yes, kids ages 14 to 18 potentially.
What do you do with the parents that have younger kids and older kids?
So we currently our smallest children, they exit outside of basically where this arrow is. There's a stairwell next to the gym where we have our K through 5. Middle schoolers go out of the cafeteria. So if you have lower and middle, you pick up at both locations.
But
Would it
aren't-
increase
Yeah, but preschool.
the blue loop?
At
Yeah,
preschool,
yeah,
If
They
you have a
don't-
blue loop kid and a green loop.
they would have to loop back around.
Assuming it's not.
so they're going in there.
Yeah, there are, I actually don't know of any.
Yeah,
who are in that
anyone who
situation.
would have somebody like you know, son, daughter in pre-K. If they have an older student there, that student actually gets brought into that building.
Oh, actually, that's why I haven't seen it.
As a parent myself, you know, that's how it was working when my daughter was in pre-K last year and my other one was in second grade. She would actually come over to the CEL building, so it wasn't 2 stops and more traffic. It was just 1 stop pulling, you get your kids and you back out the road.
Yeah, so I was just wondering about kids, younger kids in there crossing the green line, crossing the orange line, crossing the blue line. try and get all the way down
So
in that sense.
for anybody that would be in like an extended day, which is like an after hours program, they actually get walked over in a group by a teacher. Every day around 3:05, and like, for example, that's when my daughter would get brought over, they're not just like kind of one off and down to the building, they're actually escorted by a teacher. And then that, right where that red arrow is, there's a crosswalk there with a stop sign and a crossing sign, and then the same thing on the red right there, when you come to the second where the sidewalk is, right
Or the bus line.
here, there's another stop sign, a crosswalk, and then actually right here's another stop sign, a crosswalk to the other sidewalk.
So
We
this
removed,
this is, I mean, I certainly it's easy to draw that green line and at that point. What other options, and can you show us, have you done to address circulation on site?
So mostly we added a number of these stop signs in the last 12 months. This was last fall, because part of the issue that we
Let's
had.
just, I wanna play the game, if that access gate, which is the maintenance gate,
Yeah.
stays closed, how do you address the circulation on site?
I believe we have two options. One would be to enter without any type of stopping on Jamesville Road. So cars entering and exiting as they're able with
As there
passing.
now? Yeah,
Or otherwise to restack in Pebble Hill and have them cross from that. There is not enough space here to get everyone on prior to pickup begins. So I think those would be our two primary options, should we not be able to go through the gate.
Can I speak to that too? Because we consulted with the DeWitt police chief, or he was the acting police chief at the time.
Yeah.
And walked, and had one of his lieutenants also walk the site with Matt to look at the different alternatives. You'll see his letter of recommendation in our application.
Has there been any consideration of redoing circulation on site, let's say, to handle this on site rather than in the adjacent residential neighborhood?
So we're limited in the fact that we do have 20 to 25 buses that have to come in because of all the different school districts that we serve. So that takes the middle lane here completely out of, we obviously don't want cars and students passing buses and vice versa. So we're limited to the lane closest to the building here and this lane where the CEL is. We've been hesitant to send cars that aren't for the little kids, where those 3 and 4-year-olds are coming to get picked up because of the potential safety implications to that.
how wide is the road next to the gym, between the gym and the courts? Is it it's a 2-lane?
It's a 2-lane,
two-lane.
yes.
At least 24.
Consideration been, you know, that you can still enter where you normally do, that you create a loop that goes up and circulates back down,
So we
keeping
have.
everything on site?
Yeah,
Yes, sir, we have
probably
talked
do it
about
over
that.
there, but yeah.
Right here, there's kind of a pinch point where this comes down to a single lane. So we would worry about cars coming out and in at the same time.
Do you have the
and get
availability
traffic.
to widen that to
I
a 2-lane?
don't think so, because that's where the playground and everything is. It's actually right on the corner right here with the fence, and that is like a huge embankment for stormwater.
Have you ever looked at how about dismissal times, staggered or are they all?
Because we have a lot of students who are in multiple levels, our start and end times are identical for all of our different, all the way from pre-K through 12.
Has that been looked at, staggered?
I can't speak to that. I'm not sure if it has.
Well, I could see the logistics of that because all the different schools pick up there. So then the schools would have to have 2 runs. I can't imagine that.
Yeah, but if they're all picking up their students and.
Well, I think she's speaking to the buses from the 20
Other
other
school
districts.
Yeah, right.
But how do they do that? Because other districts have staggered times, like elementary and high school.
That's kind of where I'm.
Yeah.
I don't know
How
how
did
many
yours-
they're obligated to send.
Yeah.
I do not know how many they're obligated to send, if they're obligated to send multiple runs.
I would add maybe just one note to that, as far as I know, we're the only pre-K-12 institution in the region. And, you know, the last time that we undertook a schedule redesign was 5 years ago, which is a pretty enormous undertaking. And of course, you know, in addition to safety, what's the primary driver for that? It's what's the best schedule to facilitate teaching and learning for our children? So I can't think of a circumstance where we would undertake a complete schedule redesign based on trying to solve for traffic flow.
Have you considered just putting a one lane at the edge of your property line to meet up there instead of going other?
One lane from, you're talking about coming in here.
The right side at your trees.
It would be really tough for us because we're so limited in just footage right now, but that is one of our athletic fields for JV, so. I don't know if we can afford to do that. I mean, it's pretty tight, the field to the fence, the field to the, the wood line.
It would be good to have that on the site plan, like the athletic field to show where the edges are.
Yeah,
It's-
the sideline's pretty tight too,
Few
yeah,
times, yeah,
but we
I
can
think-
certainly.
Yeah.
we could show.
Cause we can't see it here, so you don't know.
Yeah.
Because I have never been there at 3 o'clock on any day. ever.
Really?
Just because that's when I work also, so I have never ever been through this traffic.
Oh, it's not a hyperbolization, it's pretty
Yes.
real.
I get the traffic over on Nottingham,
Yeah.
all the schools there.
Have there been any discussions about traffic calming on Jamesville Road with town?
Yeah.
So I did speak with, one of the supervisors over at the county about kind of what we were going through and trying to change, trying to that. And, he was full support of what we're trying to do, we're taking all that traffic off of Janesville Road, not just on Dave Road. And I think it comes back to the first responders as well, that's a main route for them to get down Janesville Road to get an emergency or something, and they have their lights on, but they may not be able to get through there if we're completely, tagged. Gotta go both ways.
I'm gonna voice my concern. I appreciate you looking at this right now. You're taking the objective of moving the traffic off of Jamesville Road and you're shoving it into that neighborhood. So you got 50 to 60 cars that you're gonna circulate through that neighborhood. Which the roads are not wide enough right now. It is a small tertiary neighborhood in there, and I don't think it was ever designed and set up to accommodate excessive traffic through there, whether you're stacking them there or not. Which is why we're pushing you to see what can you do and keep it on site and not push those cars through that site. There was other consideration given back when the gym was done and when that road in the back was done to the purpose of that gate, and that it wasn't gonna be available and open for traffic going through that neighborhood. It should be closed and maintained in a closed manner unless it's for maintenance to get trucks in and out, to service any of your buildings. So I would highly recommend that you look at options to circulate on site at this point, or show us all viable options in here. But
If I may, we did do a traffic study, for precisely that purpose.
I understand the traffic study.
I'm sorry?
I said I understand the traffic study and the purpose of the traffic study, but I also understand that neighborhood has got kids and people in there, and you're now asking parents that are like, oh crap, it's 3:15 and I gotta go pick up my kid. And they're gonna be zipping down that road to get into the back parking lot over there, and you're now putting all that congestion and traffic concern that you had on Jamesville Road with no oversight into that neighborhood.
If I may, I actually spent the first 2 weeks of school this year, observing the traffic flow in there. I can attest from firsthand experience that our parents are not zipping through that neighborhood. And, in fact, the only area where it's congested is on our campus, once they get into our gates and they start to line up. The way that my experience has been with parents, looking to pick up their children is they like to get there as early as they're allowed. So to the extent that we have been able to, facilitate them getting there and being able to be ready for their children, we've had, I don't think we came close to having a car backup off campus except for day one when people, were the first time that they had ever done it, they were new to the sport. I got a chance to meet our closest neighbor when his children were walking home from public school, and we got a chance to talk about their experience. He brought me a bottle of water because it was a pretty hot day that day. We care deeply about being good neighbors and
Understood.
to say
And we-
that we're pushing congestion in there is really not the case.
Again, it's not the congestion, because I think what you've showed us and what you've done, or at least explained to us here, is that you can stack 50 to 60 cars.
Yeah.
From the gate forward, so the congestion is not necessarily the issue that I'm raising. The issue that I'm raising is that those 50 to 60 cars, which are stacking in the back there, were entering off Janesville Road, are now entering in through that neighborhood. It was never set up and designed that way to accommodate that traffic going through there.
Another concern was also, like you just said, a child walking home from public school does your 90-minute window, is that at the same time the kids are being dropped off by buses from JD schools, you're walking home from Moses, or?
So we're actually, our dismissals before Moses, so Moses is around 3:20 to 3:30. At that time, we're letting cars in from 2:30 PM all the way until past 3, and 3:05 is when we're actually letting out. So by the time that we're actually clearing to give out, things are like getting, I'd say, less congested.
Typically, we've concluded by 3:25.
Yeah, they're just starting their process. In the
Are
same
there
with like,
JD buses coming in then for like the middle school, or?
For pickup,
I'm just worried about children out walking in the neighborhood when you have a bunch of cars coming through.
yeah, and like, it is 50 to 60 cars estimated, right? But it does start at 2:30 all the way past 3, so it's not like 50 at once and they're flying through. It does break up, there'll be 5 here, and then 5 minutes later, another 5 or 10 rolling in. It is at different times. Being down there myself, and I'm usually, there at like 2:30, there's no cars waiting there. I've never seen anyone like flying to the neighborhood to get on campus. I think at the school in the neighborhood, just trying to foster a relationship, we couldn't like tolerate that. Like we speak to someone who we've actually seen speeding through the neighborhood.
and we have sent communication to any parents who we know were outside prior to 2:30. Letting them know that they needed to wait until after 2:30 to arrive. And we've seen good compliance when we've had that outreach.
Is the plan always to have someone from the school out there monitoring what happens with the cars and?
So I personally am out on that driveway helping to double stack the cars every day from 2:30 until dismissal is completed. Mike and his team open and close the gate each day. So yes, the intention is to continue to have school representatives out helping to direct traffic and keep the cars on our property.
I just want to chime in for 1 second if I may. I think one of the important things to balance here is the general safety. The critical issue is that they don't have enough room to stack coming in off of Janesville Road. So when you start to have any kind of backup on Janesville, you only have 5 to 6 foot wide shoulders. So that the road becomes very narrow very quickly if you have any kind of congestion on, and that's why they're getting the main stopping and the backups. The overall volume is relatively minor. I've studied probably somewhere close to 100 schools at this point in my career. Then the key that Kristen mentioned is separation of car and bus is a huge thing for schools. So if you have and I understand it is a residential area, but a severely underutilized area where you can funnel that traffic and avoid that congestion on the main road, it's a huge safety benefit, not just for the school, but for the 400 to 500 cars that are traveling Janesville Road every day. So I think it's important to remind yourself that there is a balancing act in every decision that you make. And this really provides that relief so that you can avoid that main congestion. And I don't think it's turning movements that are the concern. It's really that the crossing maneuver or the stopping.
So. And tell me if you've already considered a scenario like this, but so between 2:30 and I think 3:30 is the time slot you're talking about.
Correct.
50 to 60 cars, we've got an hour window. Had you considered what it would look like if you had designated time slots for certain parents within it? Because we don't have 60 cars coming at 2:30 stacking. We've actually got them staggered over that hour. Is that a consideration? I think
So,
that's-
so we don't begin dismissing until 3. So we have allowed them to start coming onto the campus as early as 2:30. For the 3 PM pickup, so that dismissal time wouldn't begin until 3. So. Using what you're saying, we would have to condense that into that half-hour period. But we have not looked at that. But I think it would be a shorter time period than what you've outlined.
You suggested that people that have take Addison Drive to Pool and then the other half take Andrews to Dunlap. It cuts half the traffic down, because it's supposed to, there's 2 ways to get there. So that means it would be 30 on each road essentially. It's impossible. So,
Yeah.
okay. Why didn't the police just send a letter saying, go this way?
Our parents like to be good partners, and I'm pretty sure we would have a very high compliance.
So then you're talking potentially 30 cars per neighborhood. That probably doesn't get too many cars anyway, over an hour.
I think you're talking, you got 30 cars.
I mean, each path.
Yeah. Still, from that intersection to the gate is all.
No, you're missing a road. The picture's not big enough.
Yes, I know, but if you got
There's another road to the right that you can come in.
Dunlap, I know, but I'm saying from the intersection,
No,
wherever it's.
oh yeah, Andrews the other one.
Or Addison, so that's,
No, Andrews.
I know, hold on.
Okay,
If you're saying half the traffic's going on Addison.
Pool.
Okay, Addison to Pool,
The other half goes to Andrews, Dunlap. Okay.
right, so you still have this convergence of all the traffic, I think.
At one corner. Where there nobody is.
And honestly, that's what people are doing now. So not everybody comes down the same way. As I said, during like 2 weeks there, I saw people coming from different directions.
One other small thing I would note, what's on the inconvenience part for the residents is that, this traffic is going through when most people are at work. It's not happening on off school days, it's not happening on weekends. Another thing to consider where you're considering the residents is that it's a very limited impact as far as time compared to when people are traditionally home.
In terms of the student counts, so remind me again, this is for pickup for what grades again?
Primarily through, in this area, this would be for kindergarten through 8th grade.
Okay,
So taking out the blue preschool.
Why only 8? Why not high? Why not through 12?
For the most part, they are picked up by their parents across the road, or they're going with a friend home.
I guess where I was going with this.
The older kids do use that crosswalk to walk across the
Yeah.
road.
Okay, but if, I guess any child could get picked up by their parents from kindergarten to 12th grade
Correct,
on that loop.
correct.
Yeah, okay.
I guess where I was going to is that wherever this solution lands at the end of this is, how does this solution accommodate your student enrollments over now and into the future? So this year, how does the enrollment compare traditionally to past years, and what are you projecting?
So the enrollment this year is 10 more students than it was last. At this time, our enrollment has trailed off in the prior 3 to 5 years. I think our goal and hope would be to grow the enrollment of the school. We're currently at 330 students between pre-K through 12. I think ideally over the course of the next 10 years, we'd like to see that closer to 400 over time. I don't anticipate spikes in enrollment based on history. At this point, I think 20 to 25 years ago, we saw enrollments of over 500, but we haven't seen that in many years at this point.
So a couple of things, if there's no other questions or comments. That we'll do here first, just to notify you that gate being open is in non-compliance with the previous approvals. So until we get this situated and taken care of, they can't be using that back gate there.
Starting when? I guess I should just say then, that, you know, of the alternatives that we've considered, that means that, we're going to have to allow cars to turn in as they will. You know, we've been communicative with you, you know, throughout this process to let you know, like, look, this is what we've been doing. We're looking for some help and some partnership on this. I don't think it is wise to expose my employees nor my children to you know, the hazards that would come from asking them to be crossing guards.
So I
And my
would-
understanding too is that
Yep.
actually that's the obligation of the town. So we're gonna have to basically say, actually, we couldn't even do it tomorrow because no one, you know, I can't guarantee that folks will read their email tonight. But I could say that, you know, as of Monday.
I think you just have to recognize that you're in non-compliance right now. You're actually going against the recommendation or the approval of the board in the previous project. So
Yes.
that's, I
We
would
did not know that
making
when
you
we
aware
first
of
set,
that.
when we first set this procedure out. That was not something that we knew at the time. And so that's why as soon as it came to our attention that that was the case, we've been in active dialogue with this board, with this body.
And we appreciate that.
Yeah.
We'll work with you, but I'm just telling you right now that you know, not supposed to be open.
Understood.
Understood.
So, the other thing that we'll do is we'll call for a public hearing. We'll set the public hearing. Say for the next meeting in 2 weeks on the 7th. So that will give us enough time to notify,
14.
it's the 14th. My apologies, the 14th.
That's what we've been informed of,
Yeah.
was the 14th.
Sorry, I had a bad date.
No problem.
So we'll notify the neighborhood at this point.
Wait. That puts last meeting on Thanksgiving.
We don't have a second meeting in November.
Oh, I
And we do not have
thought
a
we did
second
first,
meeting in December either.
I thought we did first of March.
Let's finish this
Yes.
first.
But nonetheless, and I'll make the motion right now to call for a public hearing at the next session of the planning board. Is there a second? Kathy, all in favor? Okay, so at this point, we'll call for a public hearing. That will be our next step. You know, I would recommend that you come prepared to talk to the public and answer questions and show other options. I would highly recommend that you look at opportunity if it may be reconfiguring the playground or how you might circulate on site. Because you're gonna be asked that question, I'm sure. And figure that one out, so.
Thank you.
Show the stacks. I would
Yeah.
show the stacks.
Yeah, we'll
They
show
could do-
stacks, we'll have numbers, we'll overlay this on our survey along with the area. So we have everything in one place, everyone will understand where we're talking about, when we're pointing to the campus at specific locations, because it
Yep.
is getting to that level of nitty gritty, so understood, hear you there.
Okay,
Thank you. Thanks for.
Thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
you got it.
Very nice to meet you.
All right, last up, we've got Bridge Street.
Bye,
5795.
There's stranger here. There's one there. Introduce yourself.
I won't feel I insulted you.
Good evening, Matt Naparello, Naparello Consulting, with me, Matt Lester, who is the contract vendee of, the 5795 Bridge Street property. That property has frontage both off of Kravick Drive and off of Bridge Street. The proposal, relatively simple proposal, is to split, this existing, mother parcel, which is about 4.03 acres, and to create two lots, one lot. See this shows up, to split.
And where? Give me an idea of what to look for.
Purple.
Oh, I can't see it at all.
I got green.
I see the arrow and I'm like.
Whoever has the arrow, follow the purple dot if you can see it. That's a one.
I
Yeah.
can't see you the only one. I didn't get into the Navy because I was red colorblind, so, my lasers are green and purple. Alright, so we are creating, a lot that is going to split this mother parcel. The mother parcel has frontage on Bridge Street. And it goes down here to Kravick Drive. The properties, this is the old miniature golf for those who've been around a long time. I still call this Step Plus because one of my good friends used to own and operate Steps Plus in this back building. And then the front building off of Bridge Street has Henry Wilson, and it's still the mattress shop, right? Is that still in there? Yeah. So the Sleep Master sits off of the building that's fronting off of Bridge Street. The proposed lot line, and I had a different a highlighted graphic, but since we have this up, this proposed lot line is running plus or minus along the DOT drainage easement. This is a drainage easement that takes a stormwater runoff off of Erie Boulevard, and it kind of runs along the backside of all these properties, continues to the northwest, and eventually discharges into the wetland system that is to the south side of 690. So that drainage easement plus or minus is gonna be where we're gonna split the lot. So we'll have frontage on Bridge Street and frontage off of Kravick Drive. Mr. Lester, as a contract vendee of the property, and working with Tom Portier, is looking at this as a logical split and for future use for financing purposes to split that into two pieces. So that's why we're here tonight. We think it's pretty straightforward. The other point of information, there is a municipal sanitary sewer easement off of Kravick. The sewer is here. The sewer easement exists, and that serves the sewer for this commercial building, but as well has ties in here. But that existing sewer easement is there, showing up on our survey that INUSI prepared for us. So that's why we're here. Hopefully, it's pretty straightforward.
Thank you. I mean, it does seem fairly straightforward. I got a couple of questions.
Absolutely.
What's happening on lot 1A right now?
Right now for this.
What's the intent? I guess there's a bigger question. What's the overall
There is a
intent?
future intent, and I think that's why Mr. Lester is looking at this particular opportunity of these properties sitting off of the backside of Erie Boulevard with access. As of this time, he has, and he can address it more better than I, there's no current or active plan other than to break off these two lots into frontage on Kravick and frontage on Bridge. And then certainly when a program through his development entities come up with something, we'll be back for a site plan review.
So the previously approved project on there is dead and gone and no longer that way. So
No, there's two. That hasn't been confirmed, like, right?
just confirm it.
Oh,
It's when we're closing in January, there'll be two LLCs. One will hopefully own the front and another one will own the rear. Two different partnership groups. The entity that will own the front will continue to operate it as it's being operated. And in the rear.
This would be the front, the Henry Wilson and the Sleep Master.
Will there still be access to those
So-
pathways?
There'll be a cross access.
Yeah, so that's what I was just asking about. That overlay goes away at this point with the subdivision here. You know, the overlay that's been invoked on there runs with that application that was there. It no longer exists. What's the master plan for this?
We don't have one yet. The current plan is to.
The old.
Well, the old application is expired. I mean,
Where's the overlay right now?
it's that, it was the whole
wait, I
site.
didn't hear that. Can I hear what?
Isn't that a zoning action to invoke the overlay?
It was the town board action. They already did that when we did the
Right.
last approval.
Well, it's, there's an overlay, but the underlying zoning is now what's going to be in effect. It doesn't get rid of the underlying zoning.
Right.
Doesn't get rid of the overlay either, though, right?
Yeah, but it's not.
What is-
Yeah,
but he's not-
there's no project to bring into the
Right.
overlay.
You don't have to use the.
Would there be a condition on the approval to be on permit? When you pull the permits, typically those approvals are tied to permits, but
I don't know, I need to back up, I don't know what we're talking about right now, so the original. The plan that was approved, where was it exactly?
It's on the same property.
On
It was
this
the entire,
property.
it was.
Yeah, but it was
It was the entire piece. It was,
A different applicant too, these guys.
Yeah.
He had, you'll probably remember there was like, nose to bumper parking on this
Right.
road.
Yes.
And
Okay,
then this was all
yes.
apartment.
Yes.
Right.
That was economically not feasible for that buyer, that developer, so they couldn't perform and we came in with Mr. Courtier to acquire the property. So our intent is to do something different. We don't know yet. You know, we have the access
Did
road.
this- let me, did the overlay go over all of this? Like, all the way to Bridge?
Yes.
yes, I think it was associated with that mother parcel, the entire 4 acre parcel.
They're proposing to separate the two of them.
I have the site plan. It was just,
I can't tell from.
the apartment buildings were just
Right.
in this piece, did not change that.
So
It didn't change it, but I think the overlay
Oh, yeah.
included the whole piece.
It's only.
But it was one site, that's why it was mixed use.
Yes.
overlay,
Right,
Because you'd have residential
and you still had the commercial on Bridge.
Right, and you were
And
using the
but
parking for
the
both
commercial on
buildings.
Bridge was. Part of the master plan was to be redone. On that corner down there,
Again,
So-
under that old proposal.
under the old
Right.
proposal that was there. There's a couple of other layered things on here now, the light that goes out the bridge and Sealy that, you know, is gonna impact this layout that's here and. You know, I think that has to be considered.
Sure.
But with the division here, how do you apply? Rear yard setbacks, and I mean, do you comply? I'm looking, I haven't looked deep into what lot 1B is and does it meet all of the zoning requirements?
And pre-existing condition, I don't know that answer either.
So
But
it's the
we
same
can-
thing
we
as
can
what we
review.
looked at in court.
Yeah, what you just said in the earlier
They're
one.
gonna have to have variances if there's pre-existing buildings there
Right.
to do the division to make it,
If
because something
they're
different is being done.
touching, if they're touching the lines, you would just have to meet the current setbacks or get variances for
Correct.
any other setbacks that you would be required to have. So are there any current variances on these lots that you know of, that you found in the records?
I mean, I'm just, as I'm looking at Bridge Street, the Henry Wilson gets pretty close to that front yard setback, so I would assume. That does not meet current zoning, that building's been there for a while, but certainly if we're talking what Jamie talked about in the other application, then yeah, we'd have to look at that, and if that becomes now a separate part and parcel. Of which pre-existing condition no longer is applicable, then yeah, we would have to. Look at the variance for the pre-existing building.
Just to record the site.
Right.
But if the original one wasn't going to go now and there was a bunch of traffic stuff with chimneys and all that, how does that all affect this, that they're going back there? With the light and everything
That
else?
was a big part of it is.
That was, yeah, there was coordination between the two parcels in order to align the
But will that,
light.
what they're doing now, will that keep that?
No, I don't believe.
We're
it
just
does.
subdividing the property. We don't have a proposed project. It's just for.
Well, there's work that's gonna be happening on that property line.
Yeah,
Light. and all
Sealy's
that
gonna get a light, they're gonna close that curb cut. There's a
Right,
whole
it gets
new-
all reorganized in there and yes, so that's what I think Joe was looking at is, it doesn't.
But whatever the subdivision ends up being, it still has to be able to accommodate that bigger plan. And we don't know if it does. right?
What plan? I don't,
So like what he's talking about, the realignment of Sealy Drive and the intersection was intended to line up with this property so that there was continuity with the traffic lights,
closed.
which doesn't now. There was a lot of discussion about.
But it will, under the light at ceiling.
It's under construction right now. Joe's doing the work.
Yes, I know,
No,
Right, but that-
need to.
and it is the construction that will happen there. Yeah, right there.
So it needs to be shown.
there's a light,
Cause I think it's.
right, and then, no, he doesn't.
No, that this is a existing condition as it lies.
I think,
I would think any DOT improvements that are associated with the highway work for Sealy Drive and what's happening on the south or east side of Bridge Street associated for the purpose
it
of that
actually goes
signal.
further in that plan, because that, it reorganizes some of the parking in there on that side, as well as changing the drive aisle, so there's work that happens into that property, so I think that needs to be
But
reflected.
that was already approved, correct?
That was,
So who is responsible for that work?
Joe, or Grazi.
Grazi's responsible for that work, so the lot line adjustment, let's just call it that, the lot line adjustment. And
So
the
there's-
physical activity that's gonna occur on 1B. I mean, we could show it, we can get
Yeah.
it, you need to bring it up to
Yeah.
speed.
you need to show it on there
Okay.
and have that reflected. I think they're two separate things, we're just trying to make sure that
Oh,
when we look at approving something, it's
Oh,
showing the condition that's there.
Yeah.
Or intended,
Makes sense.
and
There's
so,
supposed to be agreements in place for that.
There already are,
Right.
yeah, you approved it, it's under construction, there's already agreements, this is just a subdivision for basically.
right,
tax
so you're just
purposes.
chopping that piece off there.
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
It's-
I think-
I just gotta get it so I can
Once
put it
they
on the plan.
do
I think you
this,
did a
and then
plan
file it goes
with
through
it
there.
over, but it was
Anything future.
kind of
Well,
chilly.
yeah, I mean, this is I Newsy's plan, so I just need to coordinate it, so if I got it in the office, I'll bring it in.
So that would be,
Yeah.
we don't have a proposed project, this is just a subdivision, so that access would impact the subdivision.
That's what we're trying
Well,
to
that's-
figure out, right? So whatever agreements that are in place, that are filed, they need to be on the subdivision map, because then they're just required, it's a requirement, like any easements that are in place or any agreements that are in place need to be on the subdivision.
To give us a full picture. of what
I
we're
get
doing.
it.
Yeah,
I just have to arm wrestle with Iannuzzi a little bit because this plat map is his map. And then that stuff is almost like not in existence, so he can't survey it, so it becomes.
So
land
they're
somewhere.
filed.
Are they written and filed?
That's, again, I get it, I know what we need to do,
Okay.
I just
Yeah.
need to kind of, and it, just deal with the surveyors who deal in concrete world
Yeah, it's
and
not
us
as
as,
built.
and then us as planners deal with, you know, the
Right,
kind of
you
stuff.
know, you know what you need. to
I
do
know
out
what I
there.
need to do, I get it,
Based
I'm
on
not
the-
talking out loud, trying,
Yeah.
how can I get this done, I'll figure it out.
And that's fine, so I guess then we'll boil it back down to the division line that's in there and, you know, going along the easement in there.
So this Pavone's property here, like this is kind of a lightning bolt. And there's an easement. So I don't think we're gonna be able to get access to his survey, I'm just trying to think out loud on how.
Well, the easement will be filed, anybody that can.
Filed.
Yeah, it is, we have easement.
Right, so you should have all the information to overlay on there, make sure that it's all,
the Bridge Street to the other street at the top of the page
Right,
on
yeah.
your site.
Yep,
Yeah.
you could
It
go
goes
right,
right up through.
this might, is this a town road?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a public road, it sounds like, or it might be.
Just how she has the arrow, I hit my,
Just everything in between.
yeah, yeah.
So the day, the one.
So the access off of Gravit,
What the line that you wanna cut against, where you wanna make it cut.
it's literally right here.
Yeah.
so it just takes us.
You love laser pointer.
This thing will go too, but it's.
I know, it's fucking all over.
Gotta be careful with this.
It's right.
He's still a kid, still a kid,
Something else.
it's all right.
So as long as all of that information gets on there. Are there any questions in terms of the subdivision, anything that, I mean, we have access from Gravit, we have access from Bridge.
We need to look at what variances are gonna be required.
Right.
All
Because
the
then you'll have,
setbacks.
because then you'll have to go to,
All the
like, we
parking.
can't give a subdivision to get the.
Right.
I mean, I just looking at it, we've got side yard for both
Yep.
buildings and it looks like we have at least front yard for the Henry Wilson.
Or for, 1B, lot coverage, parking,
Mhm.
That's all gotta be in
Right,
consideration, so we're making it a non-conforming lot by the subdivision.
It makes it look like the one at Bridge Street has a lot of coverage. Like
Right,
that,
that's,
yeah,
if we do that, you gotta have essentially a zoning table for each of the two properties. That's all in there.
Yeah, we can always change the subdivision line.
if you may need to give.
Okay.
Give them some
Back
miniature
into it.
golf.
Yeah, you'll just be on the other side of that
Right.
easement instead.
better
It doesn't
to know-
matter, it's an
better
easement,
to
you
know
can't
now.
use it anyway.
Well, no, yeah, we can figure it
Yeah.
out.
I mean, and it does not have to be exactly straight either.
Well, I mean, if you're looking at green space and conforming lots, it might come like this and this, just to give green space. It'll be a little funky, but.
We'll,
That's what he
we'll try
does.
to, again, we'll try to minimize, just like you talked about in the other application, minimize those number of variances, because I agree, we don't wanna. But
I don't know that it does, I'm not saying that it should be. But this board, as the planners, need to say what makes sense.
Right.
You don't wanna, create a lot that makes no sense, right, from a planning standpoint.
And that's
Where do
kind
we
of-
develop a plan, but if the variances make sense, like they did on that last one, like who'd have thought we'd get like 12 variances on something? But it did make sense because of where it was. I'm not saying
Well, and that's
yes
kind of
or
where
no,
we
I have-
started about where this split line should be, it kind of made some common sense of.
Yep.
Where we are following the existing easement line and you guys split the lots right now.
And the other thing we're trying to contemplate is like we don't intend to do miniature golf here. So at some point, we'd like to put a structure here and activate this corridor, this parcel. So if we did, do some kind of. Subdivision line here, now we're gonna create more pinch points for future development, so we're trying to think a little bit ahead, but it's hard to know. What we don't know.
Right, and well, the other thing to remember is you've got an existing building, right? So if you have to really think about what you're gonna do, because lots are supposed to be configured for a use,
Mhm.
right? So is it gonna be a plaza, multiple buildings in a plaza type setting? Where it's shared parking, are you gonna demolish that building, build something better, put parking over there? I don't know what else the board might wanna see in that regard, but I think. Like the subdivision is such. It's important, but it's a really small part of
Yeah.
what's gonna happen to this site, because doesn't. Make a lot of sense the way it is.
In order to acquire it, we have to subdivide it, that's the only way Tom would move forward with the sale. So we have to unfortunately do that first, it's a little chicken and
We'll
egg,
acquire that piece.
in order to. Take ownership of it and then move our project forward in some direction, could be a bank, could be.
Would there be an easement that continues back to that parcel?
This would definitely be a cross-access easement.
Yep, definitely need to see
If
that.
we don't have enough parking here, we could look at sharing parking with a reciprocal easement for parking and access of both lots. And then there'll be.
But right now you don't need it, right? Unless Tom's piece needs it.
If the subdivision line comes here,
Mhm.
then we might not have enough parking.
Well, again, we'll look at that as
Right.
that code requirement for the
Right.
square footage of the building under a retail use.
Is the building on the top right, let's remind me, what, is that occupied in use?
There's a sign company, I think his son works out of it. It's real estate signs.
So it is, so it's.
He's there's a use.
I just did two lane, you've got this access road from Bridge to Gravit Drive that cuts through. Why wouldn't the subdivision follow that line straight up and down? So you're still
Like here.
straight down, yes, you got that long lot, and you've got 1A as its own.
And no, because it's got access to Crowd.
Oh, okay, actually, that lot would have access on two public roads.
And
Well, the whole
so
purpose-
this will have an easement that would be shared between the two lots.
Well, no, you'd have one lot, 1B would extend from Bridge to Kravick. And 1A would be its own lot on that side. with
He's saying-
access to
he's saying-
Kravick.
He's saying to go this way.
All the way to
All the
Bridge.
way, yeah, follow that line all the
away.
that,
Or
that
where
limits
light
what
will be.
you coordinate that.
You know, from that
reveals the
corner.
plus build.
I think it's because he's trying to buy the building on the top. Right.
So this lot line here creates a problem for us, because when Grazi moves his light, he's not changing the lot line. This is all, like, the improvements are gonna overlap both lots, and he's doing that through an easement with the bone and right here. So it's a little funky, it's kind of like overlaying both lots, so then this lot line might be in the middle of a berm or like a,
But if you leave that, don't worry about the light and access down there, but the corner just up from that one, right there.
Straight up.
If you extended that property line up,
Yeah,
right
Yeah.
there,
could be,
then you don't need any of the access agreement to get from Ridge all the way up to Kravick, right? Cause it's all part of that.
yeah, you got it
property,
on the road, yeah.
You know, and then,
That may help with lot coverage and parking.
Yeah, our requirement is to make it, we have to make it 2 lots in order
Right.
for our terms of contract. The logical one was have one building on each lot from a collateral standpoint, but we could do it anyway that makes the most sense.
consider. 100%, yeah, so.
Well, we'll take a look at that, obviously.
Look at those, I think
Great,
you-
great comments, you know,
Yeah,
we certainly
appreciate it.
gotta,
Appreciate the
you know,
feedback.
take a look at the zoning aspects of the two lots that are created.
Right.
But
We
certainly.
just wanna build something here.
We want you to build it. All right, appreciate it. Any other comments?
Mixed use.
How brief,
Has there been any consideration of mixed use?
We'll consider everything. We just,
You got that overlay.
yeah. The challenge with what the last developer went through is the cost of construction for apartments. It's running about 250,000 a unit. And then you have to get the rent to substantiate cost per unit. And, you know, this is a pretty heavily commercial corridor with shopping center lights all around it, and now traffic light and Chick-fil-A and Shake Shack. Like, there's a lot going on here. Yeah, as a father with 3 kids, probably don't wanna live here, but
I know.
the demand and rent. I mean, I need a bigger vest if I live there, but yeah, it's just trying to read the market, you know, we're doing stuff in Manlius where we're doing mixed use and we're getting a ton of interest from a residential standpoint. And this just seems more commercial for us. Thank you.
All right, so I think you've heard from us, you got.
Yeah.
There's something to think about, you know, we're gonna want to see all this up, I mean, if you said you need to close in January.
Yeah.
You got.
And we need a public hearing.
We need a public hearing, we need, you know, you gotta go to ZBA and then come back here, so there's a lot of stuff that has to happen in a very short period of time. We as a board only have 1 meeting in November and 1 meeting in December.
so Nate, you used to have 2 of them.
Well, we did change it because of the calendar, the and the Christmas calendar, right, you know, so that
The way this year falls.
No, we used to do first and third.
second and fourth. Oh, we,
Thanksgiving always just switch from second and fourth, first and third. Because by definition, Thanksgiving is always the 4th Thursday, so we can't be, so we switched to first and third. It's up to you guys, I don't know, but that's what we usually do.
for some
And
reason.
I think we canceled the Christmas one.
We always canceled.
We always
December.
canceled
We didn't
December. It
always.
was always first and
Sorry,
third.
we don't need to hear the rest of that. We appreciate your time.
It impacts my life too, I'm like, are we, you know, do I get things moving up?
Getting to a meeting when we.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
I'll tell you.
Just call before you
Our
call,
goal-
make sure.
Our goal would be to be before you in the November meeting with getting these answers. The zoning review, that's on me, so that shouldn't be a problem. It just, I just have to get the
Site plan.
the site plan of the proposal and get that onto the survey, so.
What's our deadline for that meeting?
The 31st. You're also talking about a December ZBA meeting because the November deadline's in 4 days. If this board is gonna recommend it,
Right, if we do,
What is this?
We gotta do,
I don't.
we gotta show this with.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I know.
Yeah, I gotta get a new proposed access down here. I gotta get it onto the.
See, they mean in separate land for.
Create a second plan attached to the
No,
subdivision
you're
plan
meaning- oh.
that I put on my title lots that I can manipulate. That's kind of how I'm thinking I'm gonna.
You have to close January.
No, Tom? You have- I mean,
I'm just saying, you might wanna think about moving.
I would love to.
Holidays.
I would have that conversation, just the way that things are lining
Yeah.
up right now, it's gonna be very,
Yeah.
very hard for us to pull that off. With the way that,
yeah,
the way that we've gotta get you to ZBA and back here with the meeting schedule that we have. In a public hearing, I think you need to have that, we'll help you move as fast as we can,
Okay,
but there are steps that we have to go through.
what in your, I know it's impossible, no one has a crystal ball, but in your best guess, what do you think? I'll go back to him and ask for some flexibility. Is it a February meeting? Is it a I don't know.
I mean, February, second meeting of February.
Okay, okay,
I mean, that's enough meetings because
Valentine's Day,
again,
That gets, the ZBA kicker is really what's.
right.
Right.
Is this a
I don't think
referral
you'll get to ZBA.
back?
Yeah, and looking at it,
Well, we
there's
need
no
to
way
start
we
with
can do it
public
without.
hearings, then we need to make a recommendation, then you'll have to go to ZBA, then you have to come back to us.
30 days notice, public hearing.
After ZBA.
After ZBA, right? I'm sorry, backward order, yes.
And bottom line, whatever, whoever he's dealing with, it's gonna be the same boat.
Yeah, I'm not, it's not like I'm not diligent.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
Okay,
Appreciate it. We gotta
work with you, you know, get us, if you have stuff that you wanna filter through us. Go through Alana and circulate to the board, we can get your feedback, but we'll help you move forward.
Thank you.
What's the other project? We'll just go really slow on that one. The people who have to come in.
No, it's just a contract thing, it's, he wants to get closed and it's like, you can only move as fast as you can move.
Well,
Yeah.
right.
But,
Blame it on the lawyers.
yeah,
Absolutely.
Didn't have a date for closing.
yeah,
There's just so many details. And your name again?
Matt Lester.
Thank you.
I also own the Ethan Allen project with Jeff Zimmer, you probably are sick of seeing red. And then the Shake Shack, we're gonna close on
Oh,
Friday,
yeah, when are you gonna start with that?
tomorrow.
Great.
Tomorrow I own it, so.
Great, congratulations.
My daughter should be very happy.
Yeah, the Reed's jeweler,
Yeah.
the Rolex.
Yeah,
My daughter.
There's a lot going on with that. You're probably, we'll get familiar over the next year or so.
We already saw them for
The
Yeah, we keep amending and amending. Rolex keeps coming in from Switzerland and saying like, give us a castle, make it look nice.
That's why it's not here, like that was the Wilton.
Yeah, yeah,
So
so,
we approved it,
We approved
but they
Yeah.
changed.
They're changing.
and that's Rolex telling us, make it look pretty, do a cobblestone courtyard, and we're just like, are you guys, go back to Switzerland?
And
Yeah, I was gonna
then
say, Europe.
they're gonna open and there's gonna be no watches in there,
I know.
like every other Rolex
Yeah.
store.
He's
Everywhere.
he's got a pretty good relationship. This is gonna be the largest facility from Toronto to New York City here.
If you go to New York City, they don't even have any, they're all just for show in the.
The one, yeah, Jeff's got,
Miami.
it'll be full. He needs to sell a lot of Rolexes to pay for the bill. Thank you.
As long as they're paying up front to the building, right?
Thanks, guys.
We'll be back.
Public hearings, and after we make a recommendation to the ZBA.
Yeah, it's definitely.
I just seems a little backward, that would make a recommendation without any public feedback.
But not.
You don't time.
I get the kind of plans somebody gets,
Well, I guess-
we made a recommendation, they didn't mean what, and then we want
Thank
feedback.
All right, we're still going, yes, okay, so we're gonna leave it on. Last order of business, I'm gonna open the floor to Joe.
Yep, so over the last 7 years, I've served on this board, I'm proud to do that. But going forward, I'm not gonna seek a reappointment, just due to my personal business and what I have going on. I worked for Jack Tobin for 35 years, I've taken over the last 3 years. Things have changed, need to focus on what I'm doing there, so effectively, we need to resign from this board.
Immediately.
That way you guys can figure out going forward, we can pick the replacement.
Well, I will say. And I said it to you, I appreciate everything that you've done, it's been an absolute blast serving with you. I'm sorry to see you go,
Yeah,
but
And all of your knowledge.
yeah,
well, my family's been in this town for over 100 years. I'm honored, but I need to take care of what I gotta do too.
thank you very much.
Yeah, like retiring, right?
Getting going.
Retiring.
I started with Jack in 1986, when I got out of college, and been there ever since, and he passed away 3 years ago. And so,
Doesn't seem possible. It's been 3 years since he passed.
yeah,
Anyway, that was the last order of business.
yeah, no, so I appreciate everything you guys have done with Peter as well.
Yeah. No, it's been great, your knowledge and involvement with the board has been,
And consistency.
Yeah.
I mean,
And I invite you all over to Crossbow, even though I'm part of that project. But we took a derelict piece of property, and turned it into some pretty stuff.
good. Right.
I'll have to go out on some of our projects to see you. Is that what you're saying?
I'm around.
I know, I see the JK Tobin everywhere on everything I pass along. JK Tobin, JK.
I don't drink.
Well,
There you go.
Kevin's on it. Is there a second to close?
I think
I'll let Joe close it out. Joe's got the second. All in favor? Thank you very much.